Good morning and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is April 11, 2024. This is episode 134. This is a podcast by a dreamer for all you dreamers out there. Stand-up comedian and actor Paul Green, documenting my journey as I pursue a life of comedy. So, let's see. Those of you following know that I have been setting some goals for myself. And one of those goals is to write 3 new jokes a day. And I have committed to share those jokes on the podcast daily. And so you get a little insider as I start to try to develop a new act, or at least start developing some new material. So, here's joke number 1. Actually, joke number 1 is very meta. Here we go. So, I'm trying to write 3 new jokes a day, which is totally easy as long as the jokes don't need to be funny. All right, I don't know what to do with this next one, but we'll see how it goes. So, I stopped at a traffic light the other day and had an existential crisis. Like, why does red even mean stop? Who decided that? Why do I obey? Why is this traffic light even here in the first place? Why am I here? Why am I even thinking about why I'm here? Then the light turns green, and I go. And I don't know why. Okay. That's if I ever let that on stage, that's going to be kind of a ranty one. That's going to be more like, why am I here? What am I even doing? Whatever. And then the light turns green, and then I go. And I don't even know why. Didn't quite play as well when I've been reading it. All right, we'll see. Let's see what we think about this one. But I've actually always really loved kids, and I think the reason is because I've never had kids of my own. Because as far as I can tell, every parent who has kids hates that. I don't think I like how that worded. Sorry about that, Mom. Let's try worded a different way. I've always loved kids, but I'm pretty sure it's only because I've never had kids. As far as I can tell, the only people who seem to hate kids the most are parents. That might work a little bit better. All right, how about a bonus? So that was joke number 3. I'll give you a bonus one. I'm trying to be a lot more efficient with my time. So now, instead of just binge watching Netflix, right, I'll put Netflix on in the background while I play video games. All right, everybody. Those are my 3 new joke attempts for today. I am really just trying to get out of my head and just write, detach from trying to worry about if it's the funniest thing I've ever written or not, and just start trying to plow through ideas. And actually, I wrote a lot more than what I just read to you. I wrote, looks like 3 more. So I wrote 6 last night. And, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I really do want to get better at writing stand-up comedy and see if I can tighten up my writing in my comedy act. Those of you following along know that I do have a tendency to improvise a lot in my act, to riff, sort of go off what the audience is doing, which is really great. It is a strength of mine. However, there is a limit to how far that can take you, because in the stand-up comedy world, anytime you want to move to the next level, anytime you want to get into a new club, anytime you want to get on television, get into a festival, without doubt, they're going to say, send me your best 7-minute tape with no crowd work. They specifically don't want you doing crowd work because they actually want to know what your material is. They actually want to know what your jokes are. So, and this is me just looking at where can I improve and where can I hone the craft even further to give myself a greater chance of finding success. And I am finding that is in my commitment and discipline to just writing every single day. So that is my goal, is to write at least 3 new jokes every day, and I will be sharing 3 of those every day on the podcast from now until the indefinite future, my other goals is I'm doing 10 squats a day, 20 push-ups, and 20 sit-ups. And I got to tell you what, I tried to do my squats tonight, and my legs are killing me, which is really surprising because I'm just doing 10 squats with no weights. I'm literally just squatting down. I also played basketball last night for a while. So I think it's a combination of me starting to do these squat exercises, me playing basketball. And the other goal is that I will not be drinking sugar, high fructose corn syrup sodas for 6 days out of the week. So I have been on Coke Zero for 3 days so far. And I have kept all of my goals. So 3 days in, I'm batting 100%, trying to develop some discipline because as a feral bachelor stand-up comedian, it is so easy for me to be undisciplined and to get lazy or to lack consistency or good habits. So I'm now using this podcast selfishly as a way to hold myself accountable and putting myself out there to those of you who are listening and want to keep following up and seeing if this old guy who claims to be a dreamer and claims to be going for his goals is, if he really wants it. Do I really want it? Am I really going for it? So we'll see how that goes. So another interesting thing that happened yesterday is I had another follow-up appointment with who I guess is my new executive coach, who also happens to be one of my close friends from high school, and we have stayed in touch over the years. And he offered to just give me a little coaching, a little insight a couple weeks ago. And so I met up with him via Skype. He lives in China. And we had a very interesting discussion. And yesterday's discussion was equally as interesting. And it got very, very deep. And almost to like a root level of psychology. And he's really good at just sort of having me talk through whatever it is that I'm thinking and feeling, and then just kind of holding up a mirror to what I'm saying and just going like, hey, what about that? What about this? What do you mean when you say that? Or I'm hearing a lot of it. And really what he pinpoints is that he noticed that I seem to have a tremendous lack of surety about what's actually true or not in like the most fundamental sense. Like what is actually true in life? What is actually true about my existence? Woo! Because I am fairly wish-washy when it comes to anything purporting itself to be absolute truth. And a lot of that hesitancy has to do with my upbringing. I was raised in a very high-demand religious community, and that through that association, pretty much every element of my life, what I believed, what I thought, what I did, how I behaved, how I felt about myself, how I felt about the world, how I felt about God, how I felt about the afterlife, how I processed everything was somehow filtered through the lens of my religious upbringing. And for most of my life, I had this absolute conviction that it was true. And not only true, but the truth, infallible, and anything other than that was either not true, straight up false, or in a lot of cases, straight up evil. Like anything that isn't this is somehow maybe even coming from the devil. Very, very intense. And over the last about 7 or 8 years, I had a low dissension out of my faith tradition. And I'm now on the other side of this going, well, if what I believed my entire life was true ended up not being true, then what is? And also, if how I was taught to recognize and embrace truth led me to believe in something that I have found out now to not be true, that not only means that what I was believing was not true, but the mechanisms by which I was taught to recognize truth were flawed. But not only do I not know what's true, I don't even know how to recognize it. And I know that I can easily be duped. Well, I don't know what true is. I don't know what truth is. I don't know how to find truth. And I have proven myself to be highly gullible. What the hell do I do with that, everybody? That sounds like a good joke, right? Maybe I should put that on the notebook. Actually, yeah. So he really started to dive into that. He goes, Paul, so much of, I feel what you struggle with is that, has nothing to do with whether you want to do comedy or, whether you want to get a big break or whether you want to go for your dreams. It seems like so much of what you struggle is just actually trying to know if there actually is a truth out there. And if you actually even think that there is a truth out there, or do I just believe that, some sort of like multiverse, everybody's living their own truth and there actually is no such thing as an objective, verifiable, 100% fact? Like this one thing is 100% the truth and verifiable, and you have not been duped, and it's true, and everybody else knows it's true, like that sort of thing. But I mean, even that, I go like, there are people who believe that the earth is flat still. And there's a slight possibility that maybe they're right. Maybe I've been duped into thinking the world was round this whole time. You see where my mind is? You see, like my sort of wish-washy lack of confidence in myself to actually pinpoint any sort of factual statements. So I'm very much in this trying to pin Jell-O to the wall stage of my life at the most fundamental level of ascertaining and comprehending what actually is objective truth and what is deceit and what is a lie and what is false. And that's actually what's underneath everything that I'm trying to do right now, which is just not a very firm foundation. Anybody who is LDS might be listening to this will catch that little Easter egg, which is ironic, because I am found that the firm foundation of what I thought was that ended up not being that for me. And so now I'm really hesitant to go anchor myself to any other philosophy or religion or psychology or anything that is also claiming to be the one and true only anything. So it makes for a very challenging proposition for me on how I am to move forward in the world and do so confidently and do so with enthusiasm and ambition and confidence that the behavior and actions that I'm taking will actually yield the results that I want. And I think, for those of you who have maybe been following this for a while, I'm just kind of thinking back to a lot of the lack of surety that I express, even when I'm talking about going on this comedy journey. Just I'm like, I don't know how any of this is going to turn out. I have no idea if what I'm doing is actually going to produce the results that I say that I want. And I'm in sort of just this constant state of experimentation and just trying to get feedback and trying to move forward based off of very minimal feedback from whatever efforts that I'm taking. And it's so hard to know how much of the efforts that I am taking, are they not yielding the results because it actually was the wrong effort, or are they not yielding the results because I just haven't done it long enough? It's like the whole planting the seed. Oh, here's a New Testament analogy, the old planting the seed in the different types of soil, right? So was the seed actually good in the first place? Let's just use the seed analogy as like an idea, right? So I have an idea, maybe it's an idea for a joke. And so then I maybe plant the seed, meaning I try it at an open mic and it doesn't do it. I don't get any laughs. So is that because the seed was bad? Is that because the soil was bad? Or is that because I just didn't wait long enough? I didn't nurture that seed long enough. I didn't try it enough. I didn't hone it enough. And how long do I need to do that before maybe I start to see a little sprout coming up and being like, oh, okay, no, this is a good seed. And then how long until I go, yeah, I think I may have planted the wrong seed there, or maybe this is just some crappy soil. I don't know. I'm getting confused with the analogy now. But it does make it's just challenging, at least for me, to navigate this space that I'm in of desiring something that is not in my current reality and wanting to move towards it and not actually knowing if the steps that I'm taking are getting me closer, not getting me closer at all, or maybe even getting me further away. And there is so much, being, how I say it. I just hear so much feedback from maybe other, it's like I'll hear like a comedian on a podcast and they'll be like, and they'll make some sort of statement like, well, you can't do this certain, you can't put your material online because when you put your material online, then, everybody's going to see it. And then when they come and see you live, then you burned all your material. Or, well, you can't put your crowd work online because, if you're doing crowd work, you're not really telling jokes and you're not really doing comedy. And, well, you can't, just take your pick, right? There's just so many different idioms out there that people are stating as truth and stating that like, hey, if you do this or don't do that, then you're not going to get what you want. And there is such at least for me, a propensity to just believe everybody else, just go like, oh, this person said that. Oh no, this person said don't do crowd work. I'm only doing crowd work. I should stop. Or, oh, this person said don't, post this type of stuff online. And, oh, I'm posting that stuff online on even this podcast. I'm being so transparent and open and honest about what's going on in my life. And I have heard plenty of, clips from TED Talks and from self-help people who, will say, you don't want to do that. Don't tell people what you're up to. Don't tell people what you're up to. Just put your head down, work on yourself, and then let everybody be amazed when, in a couple of years you emerge and all of a sudden you're like crushing life. But don't talk about it, because if you talk about it, then you're vulnerable. And to let people know what you're up to, then, then they can attack you. And then there's all these sort of fear narratives about any sort of action that you can take. There's so much criticism. I was actually my buddy Jim, who I talked about a lot on this podcast, when we were talking, we had a long conversation a couple of days ago, and he just talked about how in so many aspects of his life, like even when he was a police officer and became the DARE officer, that all of these police officers were criticizing him for making that move. Well, you're not really with cop, or like whatever it is, And we were talking about how I can think of 4 different comics now who have either made direct criticisms or indirect criticisms towards stand-up comedians who do crowd work and then put it online. And almost all I've been doing for the last couple of years is doing crowd work and putting it online. And, and then there's all this, nobody's criticized me directly, but there's all this sort of indirect, or comics just, criticizing comedians who do that. Anyway, what does this all have to do with what I'm going through? It just has to go through with, I seem to be in this period of life to where I am starting to realize that I think the opportunity before me is to actually get to create my own belief systems based off of as much objective truth as I am able to ascertain, given the fact that I'm also a greatly flawed human being who is susceptible and gullible and flawed, and I have my biases and my preconceived notions, and and there it is. But then also with that, of just getting to make a conscious choice in terms of what actions and behaviors I'm going to take, with a detachment from what the actual outcome may or may not be. I'm really learning more and more that I need to let go of what the actual outcomes are, at least the immediate outcomes, and start moving forward from a place of integrity for what I am feeling led to do. But I felt like doing a podcast where I'm just totally transparent about my comedy journey and about myself, and just sharing everything and letting people know what I'm up to anybody who cares. Knowing full well that people could look at this and go, oh, we know what Paul's up to now. Now I'm on the radar. Now I'm sticking my head out from the herd, and now I'm vulnerable, and I can be attacked. I could say the wrong thing on here, and anybody could grab a screen grab of this and say, look at what Paul Green said, blah, 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 blah. And yep, that's totally true. That could totally happen. So what? I'm going to do it anyway. So if there's a principle of truth that I feel I can state with a decent amount of certainty, it's that moving from a state of fear in my life has led to a much less fulfilling, exciting, authentic life. And I have spent a tremendous amount of my life operating out of fear. And the more that I have really challenged myself to operate from a place of optimism, from a place of inspiration, from a place of joy, from a place of connection, from a place of authenticity and vulnerability, I'm finding deeper connections deeper, meaningful relationships, deeper, meaningful friendships, deeper, meaningful comedy experiences, deeper connections with audiences. And that seems to be the life that I am trying to rebuild, the belief system that I'm trying to rebuild, and the philosophies that I'm trying to rebuild from the ground up, and choosing how I want to proceed in the world, and accepting whatever results or outcome happen as a result of moving forward like that. Yes. That was a lot. That was a lot for a Thursday morning, everybody. I had no idea how that was going to come out of me. And by the way, I don't plan these podcasts at all. I literally just turn on my camera, say the date, say my little intro, and then I just start talking about what's ever going on, and just free flow, free form, whatever comes through my head, out the mouth, through the lips. And I'm just trying to trust that is what needs to be talked about. All right, everybody, that is all for me. This is April 11, 2024, episode 134 of the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you tomorrow.